Hi, welcome back to Black and White TV. It's a new year.
It's a new year. Happy New
Year.
Woo! We made it.
2022. I'm expecting great
did
things.
you see, I know we didn't talk about this, did you see the meme where it was like, it's like a picture of somebody in shock and the caption says, like, this person just realized that 2022 it actually means 2020, comma, T-O-O.
That was good. I was afraid. Right? I was like, wait, what if this isn't funny?
Most of what we say isn't funny. We just roll with it anyway. So happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're back. It's
Happy
season
New
2.
Now.
Happy New Now.
Yes.
Season 2, last year, our first season.
Yes. We have not all of the episodes up,
Correct.
but we are going to.
We will keep uploading some content that we recorded last year that we didn't quite turn into episodes. We'll do that this year eventually.
Yeah, we'll do that for you.
Yeah,
You're
but
welcome.
right now we're launching season 2, and over the coming weeks,
we're
going to be talking about some things that we've actually been doing in the schools.
In the schools. Speaking of the schools, today I'm
who are you
representing the Young Women of Excellence.
Where?
And we are in Seminole County, specifically Lyman High School.
The Greyhounds.
Yes, we are
Shout
here
out
for that.
to
Yes,
Lyman.
yes. But shout out to the young men and women of excellence.
Correct.
All over. Yes.
And the teachers and administrators,
Yes.
amazing people at that school.
I agree.
Doing a great job.
Yeah. I'm here for the swag.
We're so grateful to be partnered with them. Yeah. Also want to make sure that you know, if you could, right now, this is a huge help to us.
Not now, but right now.
You can pause, and while you pause, hit like or subscribe or follow, whatever platform you're using right now.
Right.
We're on iTunes,
Spotify, YouTube.
Yes. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. There's so many.
Your mom.
Yeah. Ask your mom about us, and she will inform you.
Yes.
So maybe you're watching this on YouTube, which is where we do the video version of this, or you're listening.
Right, because you can't watch us on Spotify.
Exactly.
That's hard.
We're so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, as we normally do, we don't always do it, but usually we try.
No, we always do this.
Okay, we always try to find something a little on the lighter side.
Yeah, we start light, and then we move to medium or dark.
Correct.
That's how we cook it.
Okay, so here we are at the beginning of a new year.
We are here.
And I was thinking, okay, typically when you're ending a year and you're kind of thinking ahead, like you're thinking about end of year stuff, beginning of year stuff. I kind of went a little further than that.
Where did you go, Sean?
I went to like end of the world.
Right, that makes sense. I see that. Yeah. Right? How would you do your resolution?
I know.
Sean's like, the end of the world.
If the world were to end today, what would be the best resolution that I could make? Actually, what happened was we were trying to find a really good movie to watch with my son. Listen, I'm not giving movie recommendations. Please don't judge, comment on my parenting skills, but this is what my son and I watched together.
You can comment.
It doesn't matter to me. You can do all you want. So we were trying to think of a good movie to watch, and we ended up watching World War Z. Have you seen it?
On purpose. I have not seen that movie.
Okay. So here's the thing. It got me thinking. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it got me thinking about just the popularity of apocalyptic movies, end of the world type stuff.
Yes. Once you involve zombies, I'm actually out.
Okay, but the thing
I am legend as far as I'll go, but that's it.
The scary thing about zombies is
there's
really only one. Okay, there's the Walking Dead zombies, which are slow, and that's kind of like Michael Jackson Thriller. Like these zombies,
don't you put those together?
They barely can.
They don't dance.
They can barely walk, and they're super slow.
Okay.
And every time you watch one of those movies, you just think the whole time, just walk away. These things
just
are
walk
so
away.
Slow. Like they'll
just
never
walk
catch
away,
you.
y'all.
Right?
You see a zombie, walk away.
But not in World War Z. In World War Z,
they broke zombie rules.
These zombies are lightning fast, and that is scary. Yeah. You do not want a zombie coming at you at lightning speed.
Not that zombie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what would you say when you think of end of world, disaster? First of all the different movies. Think of what kind of movies come to mind when you think of things that are catastrophic.
I go like Armageddon. Independence Day.
Totally. So there's aliens.
Yeah.
Comets.
Yeah.
Twister.
Oh, Don't Look Up. That's a new one.
I haven't
seen
it.
Is it Don't Look Up? Don't Look Up. Yeah, that's a newer one. That's the end of...
is that disease? What's that one?
That one is a comet.
A comet, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Comet's just going to go ahead and destroy the whole world.
But you said you had a favorite.
My favorite is Wally.
Wally.
Yes, and he says Eva.
Okay, so summarize Wally in 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
Ready?
I don't know if I can. I haven't watched it in a long time. Don't judge me.
That's why I want to hear it. Ready, set, go.
All right, so this is like to the point where Earth is now unlivable. The only thing left is Wally and some roaches, because you know roaches never die, right? And just garbage. There's a bunch of garbage and
roaches and garbage.
Roaches, garbage, and Wally. Wally is a robot, and all he does is clean. He just cleans.
I love this guy.
He's like you.
I love cleaning.
Yes. And so the Earthlings are now living in space, and they use motorized chairs.
Motorized chairs.
Yeah, you have your motorized lazy boy. They don't eat anymore. They drink their food. This sounds familiar. Mm-hmm. They communicate via screen to people.
Become lazy.
Yes, super lazy. And to the point where they don't actually know how to walk anymore.
Right.
Because they just have stayed in these motorized infrastructures. And I do believe it's based on a true story.
It's a good one. Good job.
Thank you.
It's so cute.
It is cute. It is beautiful, but it's also really sad because I think it's super true.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so if you're
watch Wally.
Yeah, watch
I
Wally.
do recommend that.
That is one of our recommendations. If you're listening, watching, comment. If you can comment wherever you're watching or listening. Tell us your favorite apocalyptic, natural disaster, comet, alien, end of the world movie. Yes. We want to hear what is your favorite.
We want to read it. We want to hear it.
James, do you have a favorite? We're just calling you out on the spot.
He wasn't ready.
The Z one was my...
Yeah, World War Z.
Because all the fast moving...
Not
slow Michael Jackson stuff.
No.
I'm scared. I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Unique? Yeah, we're talking to you. We're talking to you.
She's like, I'm recording.
I like 2012.
Ooh.
2012. Don't Look Up was really good.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't Look Up.
But 2012 is your...
Look Up.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Okay, so...
Outbreak.
We're talking
Outbreak
about...
is a good one, too.
It is a good one. Mm-hmm. Outbreak. So we're talking about, pivots. 1 year ends,
that's
another
a Friends
year
reference.
begins. We're talking about things that maybe we would like to improve upon. Yeah. I think that's what happens a lot when there's change going on in our lives.
Especially going into the new year.
Yeah.
What do you want to do better, different, etc.?
So, Jay, one of the things that we want to talk about over these coming weeks basically has to do with, as we observe our culture here in the U.S., from the last year, the last 2 or 3 years, what are some signs that we've observed that the world is coming undone a little bit?
The world's coming to an end?
A little bit.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And so when we go into the schools, we talk a lot about, we listen actually a lot to their observations.
Yeah, we work with a lot of high school students, hence again, our young men and women of excellence. Yeah. Yeah,
totally. And partly what we talk about are the pandemics.
Plural, Sean.
The pandemics.
Pandemics.
Plural.
A lot of people only know about one pandemic, Sean.
Okay, so one of the things that we talk about with students is the meaning of the word pandemic.
Pandemic. What does it mean, Sean?
So I dug deep into my Greek
that guy.
lexicon.
That's what he did.
Yeah. No, a few months ago, I was actually asked to preach at a church, which I thought was so cool. And so I was kind of digging in, as sometimes you tend to do.
That's what you do.
And come to find out, the word pandemic comes from the Greek word pandemos.
Pandemos. Like demos that you give to someone.
Right. And it's, going back to your English high school days, it's basically broken up into 2 parts. The word pan means all, and the word demos means people.
Okay.
So a pandemic ultimately is something that's impacting
all people.
All people.
Wow, I got really loud on that one.
Good
Sorry.
job. You get candy. You get candy.
That's what we do.
Hand out candy.
Yes.
So when it comes to pandemics, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we've identified at least 4. At least. And once we say them, if you guys think that there's more, which you probably do, feel free to put that in the comments. Less. That's true. They might be like, those aren't pandemics. Yeah. So yeah, things that are affecting all people. So we would say in 2020 there were at least 4 pandemos. One would be the physical pandemic, right? Your COVID. We would say there was a racial pandemic right after the death of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd. And then we would say there was a political pandemic, where we were having our more primary political parties. And then we would say there was also a social pandemic in regards to like the heightened increase of not just the cancel culture, but also within like subcultures within the culture of people having a lot of like aggression or angst or whatever because of the other pandemics. People were like shutting down, ending relationships, all kinds of things were happening in relation to the pandemics.
Right, exactly. Right? And so it doesn't matter, for instance, like the color of your skin. Everyone, all people were impacted in 2020 in our country, but also around the world through other types of division, but particularly here in the U.S., all people were affected by the racial pandemic. It didn't matter whether you voted left, right, or in the middle. All of us
were
suffered.
Impacted,
Impacted. All people. Even with students, when we talked to them, a lot of them weren't able to vote yet, and we talked to them. It doesn't matter if you didn't vote.
Right. You were still impacted.
And a lot of these students will get to vote in the next election.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to have learned from these pandemos and go into a new cycle of life, whether it's a new year or it's a political or it's a new grade or it's a job transition or a move in your life, whatever it is any of us are dealing with, how do we use those as new beginnings to turn over a leaf, maybe learn something different, put something into practice a little differently? Yeah,
and the thing about all the various pandemics was that we saw this thread throughout all of them. There's multiple threads, but one of the threads that we saw that we were like, that's a concern that we can potentially address was dehumanizing. There was a lot of dehumanizing of one another. It was like, if you disagree with me, if you deeply disagree with me, I will cut you off or I will viciously attack you, right? So there wasn't a lot of listening, learning, or leaning in, right? It was just straight up, we're done.
Right.
I'm done with you.
Yeah, and we also talked a lot about how it can go from dehumanizing and unfortunately even maybe worse to demonizing people.
Yeah. Like you are super not human.
Right.
And you're evil.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to these 3 human skills, a big deal to us with Black and White TV, with USA Unites, the work that we're doing in schools, we're even doing it with businesses now, with churches. We're looking at these 3 human skills of listening, learning, and leaning in. Not rocket science.
Nope.
Simple-ish, but difficult.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And we're all struggling with that.
Yeah. Someone had said, like, the most simple way to humanize someone is to listen.
Right.
And that's simple yet super hard.
Yeah. So as you're listening, watching all of our Uniter friends, one of the questions that we pose in the training that we do is we actually have our audience basically rate themselves or their views of what's happening in America. So if you're listening or watching, think about this. Think of a number 1 to 10. 1 being really low, 10 being very high. When it comes to listening, learning, and leaning in, how would you rate our country right now?
The America.
And we're talking about listening, learning, and leaning in to those that have very strong, differing, opposing viewpoints.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
So a lot of the students would rate, where would you say?
Under 5.
Under 5.
Yeah, about in the 3 to 4 range on average. That's what they would say.
And you've always got like your extremes.
Yeah.
So average 3 to 5, you'll have a few students that will say, can we rate 0? And then you'll have a few students that'll say, no, I think we're in the 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And all those perspectives have some valid points to it, you know? Okay, so then the second question is, how would you evaluate if that's evaluating our country 1 to 10, how would you rate your school or your workplace or your neighborhood, your home?
Yeah.
What kind of responses do you remember us getting?
The schools tend to be super low as well. And it's the same thing of like, they're talking about the teachers and students. So they're saying like as a student body and, you know, in our administration or whatever the case is, they don't feel like people are listening, learning, or leaning into one another.
Correct.
Right.
So again, that average is also in the 3 to 5 range. And then
this is anecdotal, people.
Yeah. And although we do a lot of surveys, all of our workshops have, which we get some amazing feedback on. But then on the third piece, getting even more personal, 1 to 10, if you've got your country, your school, or workplace, how would you rate yourself?
Yeah.
When it comes to listening, learning, and leaning in to the opposite. Like, we're talking about the people that just set you off, right? The people that you want to hit unfriend, the people that you
unfollow.
And again, typically we don't ask for that response out loud.
Some of them will give
they'll
it.
shout it out loud. But when we're honest, most of us would admit it's pretty low as well. Yeah. And so our goal in the workshops, and even our goal with the podcast, is we're not saying that we can go from a 3 or 4 or 5 to a 10 overnight. In fact, so much of what we're talking about, listening, learning, and leaning in, it's a lifelong process.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so what does it look like to go from a 3 to a 6 or a 5 to a 7? And so that's what we're going to be doing over the coming weeks. We're going to look at these 3 skills that we've admitted are not easy.
Right.
But they're simple and they do require work. And then around, it takes some practice, and it takes a community of people too. And that's why being a uniter, it's not just something we do on our own. It's something we're grouping and asking people to join together. And then we've got these 6 principles.
Yes.
Right? So
you have these 6 principles?
I do have the 6 principles.
You have them?
I do. We have a few minutes. I mean, we usually go around 30 minutes. Let's cover some of these.
So let's just, before we start them, right? So there are 6 right now. You never know. There might be more later.
We might add a dozen or 2 later.
Or 2.
Yeah.
A couple dozen. But this is just a base. This is something that when we talk to the students, we say, this is not just for this moment. It's not just for this class. So this is not just for when you listen to this, you're like, oh, that's nice. These are actually life principles. This is something you can use in your life, right? This is 24/7, something that you can use. It also creates safety and bravery in your relationships, in your spaces, if you adopt these into your life.
Right. Yeah, you bring up a good point. A lot of what we feel is needed in our country right now is not just safe space. You know, a lot of times, even when I was growing up, that was always like a popular phrase. We're going to create safe space here, which is great. I'm like, I want to be safe. You want a space
that you're safe. Yes.
But as a uniter, we're actually calling out each other and asking, let's both create a safe but a brave space.
Right.
So talk about what a brave space looks like.
Yeah. So if you think about, in certain relationships that you have, if you don't feel like you can be brave there, it means like, I can't be vulnerable here. The risk is too high or whatever the case is. And so imagine that because of the relationship that you've built, you now feel like, oh, we can be brave up in here. That means we can grow, right? Like if I didn't feel like I could be brave with you, I wouldn't say certain things to you. I would be like, maybe I have to walk on eggshells or whatever the case is. And there wouldn't be a lot of depth to our relationship if I can't be brave. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, and it doesn't happen quickly, instantly, overnight.
Are you saying it's not overnight, Sean?
It's not overnight. I wish it was. Darn. I wish you could flip a switch. But it takes some time.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is to humanize and to value people and relationships and to have this country at whatever level we feel we're connected to it or disconnected to it. What does it look like for us to build in and create in our culture, whatever culture we can impact, our home life, our school, our business, wherever it is we do life?
Right.
how do we make this America united states of America, not the divided states that we seem to be finding ourselves in. Okay, so one of the things that we do in schools, we'll do it here. And in fact, we're going to do it. We're going to do it here. And so we're going to ask our listeners, if you're driving, wherever you're listening, you're going to say this out loud.
Okay,
it's one of the ways that we do a lot of fun, interactive, engaging teaching. And I really love that part of our workshops. Actually, if you're listening, whether you're a teacher or if you work somewhere where you're possibly looking for some training, we love the opportunity to get around other people, adults, kids of all ages, and talk about these principles. So reach out to us. We very much enjoy this training with people in all different fields. So here's what we do, though, to get it to sink in.
Okay, sink it in.
We do some memorization. We do some repetition.
Yeah, some of that.
So I'm going to say the 6 principles one at a time. I'm going to say them out loud.
You are. Okay. I'm glad that you're going to do it out loud.
Jay, you're going to repeat each one.
Okay.
Just like they do in the classroom.
Okay. Do you want me to be monotone?
I want you to do it exactly.
Depends on the class.
Okay. Maybe we'll do it both ways. First, do it how you hear it from the students, then maybe do it how you wish you would hear them. Okay, so here we go. First principle. I will listen intensely.
I will listen intensely.
And it's usually like 3.
And then I have to be like, hey.
For candy.
For a lollipop. Then it's, I will listen intensely. Sorry, you have to turn your mic. You have to turn it down because I'm getting loud.
Sorry, we just blew out some speakers.
We did. Sorry.
Yeah, basically, it's funny too that it starts with listening intensely, because in a high school, you know, the last thing they really want to do often is listen intensely.
Like listen, period.
Yeah. Okay, so number 1 is I will listen intensely. Number 2, I will learn to humanize others.
Ooh, that's a lot of words. I will learn to humanize others.
Number 3, I will lean into opposing viewpoints.
I will lean into opposing viewpoints.
Nice. Very well done.
Did you hear that inflection?
I should have brought some candy. I'm sorry. All right, number 4, I will ask thoughtful questions.
I will ask thoughtful questions.
We could just dive so deep into all of these, but I'm going to keep going. Well, we are going to do that over the coming weeks. All right, number 5, I will exercise slowing down.
That was great. I will exercise slowing down.
They usually, after a few tries, they get that one.
They do get that one.
Yeah, they like the slowing down part. And then lastly, I will live as a uniter.
I will live as a uniter.
So those are the 6 principles.
Fighting.
Yeah, and when we do the workshops, we do a lot of, like, let's say them out loud again.
Yeah.
And by the end of our time together,
they memorize it.
Yeah, they're easily memorable and thought provoking, and so they do require a pause in your life. So we will take some time in the coming weeks to dive more deeply into each of these.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Oh, Sean.
I know. This is unrehearsed.
He loves to go off script.
I do. When you look back on 2021, so we did like 83 workshops in like 70 days. It was sort of a rapid fire. We learned so much. What would you say, thinking about those workshops, what would be a takeaway that you learned, that you observed among what's happening in the next generation? It can be a positive observation, a negative observation, one of each if you think of one. But when it comes to what we heard, what we watched in the school systems, let's just say in the classrooms, what are some of the struggles that we watched at a micro level in a classroom that maybe is indicative of a macro struggle that we're having as a country right now?
Okay, so you asked 42 questions.
Yeah.
All right, great. So some of the things that that we witnessed, like being in that place and space, is, these like kids are watching, right, and they're modeling our behaviors. I know they have their own, but a lot of times it's what they're seeing, and so they're just doing what we do, right? And so we saw a lot of closed-minded behaviors, right? Like a lot of this is what I think, and I believe this is what I will always think, right? And that was maybe more early on. Every now and again, you'll have these like light bulb moments where they're like, "That's why," and then things do make sense, and like understanding confirmation bias, or recognizing like you can actually grow. This is applicable to life outside of this classroom. So we did get to see that as well. Some of the things that's hard to watch is the fact that because some kids, some people in general don't have a lot of self-regulation skills. The way that they will handle opposition is violence, right? Like, I'm done using words and now I'm going to fight you. And the way that people have showcased fighting in our culture, in our country, has been like, I will attack you deeply. Like, we teach them how to debate, which I think is quite the art. And it's something that, again, they didn't know that they could do that. Like, that you could actually disagree respectfully. Like, there's a way to do that. You don't have to attack this person's character in order to say, I don't agree with what you're saying. So yeah, I know that was all a little jumbled, but those are just some of the things that we've seen.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think what was surprising to me was what you said at the end there, that a lot of disagreement at the school system, in the student culture, has actually resulted in a very high increase in physical violence. We started talking to teachers and administrators on different campuses and found out that it wasn't just one campus. It wasn't just something that's kind of happening over there. Every campus is having an alarming amount of fistfights. And the coping mechanisms, the stress, students have gone through a time period where they were forced to do online learning. People have gotten behind academically. That creates an enormous stress. Think about any of us listening, like, school's hard enough.
Right.
And now they're behind. And then if you think even the mixed messaging out there about the economy and employment and what's out there, it can look bleak, and it can look like what's out there for me. And so a lot of what's weighing heavy on students, and I think, again, they are just a small snapshot of the whole of all of us, is this pressure, this unknown, and then when people do disagree with us, there's an overreaction, instead of engaging in dialogue, discourse that doesn't have to be violent and attacking.
Right.
So we'll talk about that some more in the coming weeks, because
and we'll attack each other, and we'll show you how to do it like a uniter.
Exactly. So friends, no matter where you are listening, please do us a big favor. It helps us so much as we continue to grow as uniters. Black and White TV, USA Unites. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook. If you're a LinkedIn, you can find us there. Black and White TV's on YouTube if you'd like to watch it more visually and listen to what's happening.
You can do it too.
Yeah. And so we're so grateful to be on this journey with you. Make sure that you
share it with other people.
Yeah, share, subscribe, like, and we'll see you next week.
Listen, learn, lean in.